Hey y'all. All right, so I'm going to show you how to make a wig without a lace closure. So if you are not a fan of lace, if you prefer a full cap wig, I'm going to show you how to do it. This is my favorite mesh dome cap. I'll have this link below as well as the wig block. Once you map out your head measurements, use some stick pins or T-pins if you prefer to hold your wig cap in place while you work. So this is the hair that we're using. My mom is not one to spend a whole lot of money on hair, so we went on down to our local beauty supply store and we got this hair. I used to love this hair back in the day. I think that's why she liked it, because she remembers when I used to wear it. But let's get started. All right, so before I start, I like to attach my thread to the wig cap. So to do that, I stick the needle through, and I'm fighting for my life right now. And I wanted y'all to see how I too struggle at times with these wigs and wig making. But I pull the needle through the wig cap. I then pull that needle in between the two pieces of thread, and that's how you're gonna stitch your wig the entire time. If that didn't make sense, you'll see how I'm doing that the entire time. And I'll show you again also. So now we are going to start sewing down the wefts. When I start to sew down the wefts, I do not start at the very beginning of the weft. I start about an inch or maybe half an inch, at least half an inch or an inch away from the end of the weft. And then I sew towards the end, and then I sew back. That way I can reinforce that weft to make sure that weft is not going to go anywhere at all. So now I'm going to start stitching the entire weft down. So again, when I start to stitch down any weft, I start about an inch away from the end of that weft. I then sew to the end of that weft, and then I sew back to start stitching the entire weft down. This way you can reassure that weft is not going to lift, it's not going to go anywhere, and your wig will last for a very, very long time. I'm talking years. One of the reasons why I still like making my wigs by hand is because when you make it by hand, you are able to cover up the entire elastic part of the wig. I do not want to be able to see that. Plus, while you sew, you will not be sewing through the elastic band. You'll be able to just sew the wefts onto the material that's on top of the elastic band. So let me tell you guys why I like to use the colored T-pins. So see how I have that turquoise, that purple, and that pink? On the other side, I have those exact colors at the exact spot as where I have them on this side. So the pins on the left side match the pins on the right side. So I'm going to end it at this purple and flip it over. So I'm going to sew to the other purple. That way both sides of the wig will have the same amount of hair. So now we are going to flip it over and keep it moving and use a good old T-pin or a stick pin. I use stick pins. Those colored pins are stick pins. And I just use a T-pin. I'm not a big fan of the T-pins. They can kind of get caught up in your wig or your closure if you're working with a lace closure. But I wanted to show y'all how I had to buy two different packs and we had to make it do what it do. They did not have two of the same packs of hair, child. So my mom got me working overtime trying to blend this hair together, but it turned out cute. So yes, go ahead and get you a T-pin or one of the stick pins and hold that weft in place while you work. And you want to just fold the weft back. You don't want to pull. You don't want to pull on your cap. So just gently fold it. No, it don't have to be all gentle. Y'all know what I'm saying. Just fold it back and then pin it down and sew. That's all. So as you know, eventually you will run out of thread and you have to get a new needle. So when you notice your thread is getting smaller when you are about to run out, go ahead and start stitching back over what you already stitched. This will reinforce all of that hard work, and you don't have to worry about your wig falling apart. So after I go back as far as I can, about an inch, I go ahead and I loop that needle through several times like I just did before I cut it. And then after I cut it, I knot it at least twice. I want to make sure that weft is not going to go anywhere. You want your wig to last a long time. And now that I'm on the other side, I'm going to stitch to that turquoise stick pin and then fold it back and continue working. I want to make sure I cover that entire elastic band. And I mentioned it earlier, but do not sew through the elastic. You want to be able to take advantage of that elastic band on that wig without having to add one. So we are about to start our circle. So when you get to the crown, you want to start going around in a circle. So we can go ahead and close up the wig. And I like to use a pin to kind of be my focal point of where I'm going to make my closure when I close off the wig. And that is where I ended up moving it, but have an idea of where you will end your circle when you close up the wig. You want to place the wefts as close together as possible without placing them on top of the previous row, especially when you're doing this technique with straight hair, because you can make the wig look super bulky. But with curly hair, you can get away with it, especially if you want it to be super full. My mom is not a fan of a lot of hair, so I didn't do that. So here I want to show you how to tie your knot at the end of your thread. I just take the two pieces and I just go around like that. Let me show you. It's so hard to explain, but do you guys see what I'm doing? I just create a circle, then loop the end through the circle several times, like 3 or 4 times. 5, even better. And then I just cut it off. We are almost done. So just remember, keep going around and around and just place them close together without overlapping. And just take your time. And now it is time for, this part is so hard to explain when it's time to plug that hole. So what you are going to do is you are going to cut about an inch. The size of the weft you will need to plug this hole depends on the size of the actual hole. So you're going to cut off what you think you may need. Start with an inch. You're going to do a test run to see if it's going to fit in there properly. If that piece moves around too much when you put it in that hole, you need to make that piece bigger, because when you sew it, you're going to be able to see the tracks, and you don't want that. So once you have the right size weft and it's rolled up, you're going to want to sew that together. So take your needle and stick it through the center of that piece. And you're going to go through the circle of your needle and thread. You're going to go through that. And then you're going to keep doing that. You're going to keep sewing. That way it will stay together and you will not have any problems. And just go through it and it'll look like that. So then you want to stick it in your hole. And you want to go under the last weft that you attached to your wig cap and go through that outer weft of the piece that you just sewed together. And remember, each time you sew, while you're making this wig, you want to go through that hole. You want to go through the center of your thread. And you do that here as well. And you just sew all the way around to make sure that piece goes nowhere. So here is how it looks once you are all done, but we do want to flatten it to make sure it looks nice and flat. So we are going to find the center. You don't want to be able to see the wefts. You don't want to be able to see the thread. So find the center, spray it with your favorite holding spray or spritz, and then flatten it with your curling iron, or if you have a wand. More than likely, you will have to put a little bit of oil on that area after you go over it with your wand or curling iron, because it may look a little ashy or white from the heat and the alcohol from the product. So just apply a little bit of oil and that will go away. So before I started cutting, I separated the curls. I wanted to make sure you could not see any of the wefts. And plus, before you start cutting, you want to pull those curls apart a little bit. That way you can kind of see how it will look while the wig is being worn. And I'm having to use these small scissors because I broke my scissors, my favorite scissors. So I'm using these. Do not use a razor when you're cutting curly hair. That will make it frizzy. So use scissors and cut downward, and don't close the scissors up when you cut. You want it to look nice and natural. And what I do, and see how I'm having to pull the curls apart before I cut? Eyeball where you want to cut. Place your finger underneath that area. Pull that curl down and then cut downward. After playing around with the wig, I did feel the need to add another weft. I felt like if the wind if the wind blew just right, the world would be able to see my mom's business. So I said, let me go ahead on and add another track. So if you feel like you need to add another track, or if you feel like the wig is too full, do what you have to do. Just take your time and do what you have to do. And sometimes it can take time. Oh, and make sure the wig is on your mannequin head just right before you start cutting. And I also recommend cutting it while it's on your head. At least cut the bang and the sides while it's on your head, because sometimes these mannequin heads are a lot smaller than our actual head. So when I cut this wig, I just cut off what obviously had to go. And I do love this color though. I can't pull it off, but my mom only wears red, child. She ain't wearing no number 1, no 2, no 4. It has to either be a 30 or a 33. But this is how it turned out. Sure, she's going to have me cut more once it's on her head, or she will cut it herself. And just take your time when you're cutting curly hair, because more than likely, the more you play around with it, like I'm doing now, you're going to see more hair that needs to be cut. And like I said, eyeball where you want to cut, place your finger underneath that area, and then pull and then cut. And I do offer custom wig services. So if you don't want to make your own wig, don't worry, I got you. Just click on the link below to learn how to start your order. If you have any questions at all about anything in this video, please let me know below. I will be more than happy to answer. And I will see y'all in the next one. Thank y'all so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.